been said that luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. Welcome to the Australian Hunting Backcountry podcast, where we will focus on all things hunting in the backcountry, not just in Australia, but everywhere that backcountry hunting is possible. My name is Tobias, and if you're a hunter with no backpacking experience, or even an expert, I would like you to join me as we explore gear, places, and technologies, hear lived experiences, different perspectives, and share the passion that people have for a hard-earned backpack hunt. I appreciate you being here with me as I try to increase the knowledge that will bring us better luck in the backcountry. The Australian Hunting Backcountry podcast is proud to welcome two new partnerships for 2024. Skeleton Optics Australia and On Track Meals are now both sponsors of the show. Skeleton Optics Australia is a family-run Australian-based business offering premium high-performance and durable sunglasses for active outdoor users. Skeleton Optics sunglasses use polarized Zeiss lenses and feature frames designed with lightweight and impact-resistant materials that provide a secure and comfortable fit. I personally now use Skeleton Optics sunglasses and would encourage you to reach out to Chris and Daniela if you would like further information on what glasses might suit you best. On-Track Meals are made in Brisbane and is a 100% Australian and veteran-owned business. On-Track Meals pride themselves on producing high-quality, shelf-stable, healthy, real food designed to be taken with you on your next adventure. Because the meals are not dehydrated or freeze-dried, they have retained all the flavour, don't require any water to be added, simply heat and eat, or they can even be eaten cold. They have a broad selection of meals with many more being planned and cater for some allergies and diet options. The coconut ginger chicken is now my new favourite, and On-Track Meals will be accompanying me on many future adventures. So welcome to another episode of Australian Hunting Backcountry, and today I am joined by Josh Price. For those of you that don't know Josh's name, he also goes by the handle on Instagram of Alpine Accuracy. Josh is a small business owner and a long-range hunter as well. So, Josh, thanks very much for coming on board and making yourself available for the podcast.
Thanks for having me, mate. I know I've been hard to get a hold of, but I'm finally here.
Yeah, no, all good. This is what happens with life. Things get in the way and interrupt us doing the things that we'd rather be doing, I'm sure. So, Josh, my initial introduction, as I said, small business owner. Obviously, that's a side thing you got going on besides your main occupation. So, do you want to give us a bit of a rundown, bit of an introduction on yourself and who you are and what you do?
Yeah, mate, so obviously my name's Josh. Last couple of years, got a little business together called Alpine Accuracy, where I started making shooting rests for the guys going deep in the backcountry or even, hunting around property, but they want to have a light shooting bag. As when I started making them, there wasn't really anything light you could buy. So I started that, and then obviously that took off probably more than what I thought it would. So 2 years later, we're still making shooting bags, which is pretty cool. And I've had a lot of support from the general public and a lot of people on Instagram actually reaching out and wanting to give it a run because they're in the same boat, whether they want a blaze orange shooting bag or one that's extra light because they don't want to carry a 3 kilo shooting rest around or carry multiple. So it's been a wide range of interest, and it's been really good, to be honest. But apart from that, work in construction like many others. Worked interstate for 10 years, which obviously stopped me from doing a lot of hunting. Just done a lot of fishing when I was up in the NT in Western Australia, so that's what took up most of my time over there. But since I've been back in Victoria, it's just Sambar mad, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see in the background there you've got fairly impressive mount up on the wall behind you, and then a few antlers off to the one side there as well. So
yeah. So the one on the wall, got that one last year. That was actually my longest kill, that one. And then I actually got a real good one this year. So he went 33.2 long,
Wow.
and he's up on the wall right next to the partner's working from home space. So she loves it.
Yeah. Keeping an eye on her.
That's exactly right. So
Yeah.
there's no better place to put it.
Yeah. Well, look, I like hearing about businesses that evolved out of COVID, particularly hunting businesses as well. So it's great to hear that you were successful in that, and of course, being an Australian business too. Um, in terms of the hunting that you get to do, whereabouts are you based, and what would you say your main sort of hunting is that you do?
So I'm based down in the Mornington Peninsula. So I've been down here pretty much forever. That's pretty why I was more into fishing than hunting growing up.
Hmm.
But a lot of the hunting that I now do is predominantly up in the Alpine National Park.
Yeah.
Um, and then now I've got the Rob dog, who's my German short-hair pointer. We obviously do quite a bit around Jamison. Even we've got access to a few properties down there, so they have nice public land access once the gates are shut, and it's just over the fence and walk in and off you go. So
Mm.
it's pretty much where I go now.
Hmm. Yep. Well, how did all this start for you? How did you get into hunting?
So for me, I was a bit of a late bloomer. As a kid, I'd done a bit of ferreting with a good friend of mine, just chasing rabbits. And then through my teens, when I was doing my apprenticeship, um, my boss he loved shooting rabbits, so he used to do a little bit of that. But then it wasn't until I was about 18, 19 that my best mate, he was mad keen Sambar hunter even back then, and he invited me along on a trip. Absolutely loved it. Went and got my gun license straight away, as you can imagine,
Hmm.
and I just ended up following them around for the next couple of years, and then I ended up spending the majority of my 20s interstate doing FIFO. So everything went on hold while I was away. As you can imagine, I was on a 4-on-1 roster, so I wasn't home much. And obviously spending a lot of time in Western Australia. I was ducking off overseas and doing the things young blokes like to do before they settle down, and obviously trying to enjoy myself.
Hmm.
But then when I was about 20, 27, 28, a good mate of mine who got me into sambar hunting, he was just starting to get into backpack hunting, and went along with him on one trip, and that was it. The bug had bitten, and I was off.
Mm.
So it's been about 8 years now, of mainly backpack hunting, and can't get enough of it.
Yep. Yep. And the long range hunting, how did that, well, hunting and shooting, how did that develop for you?
Well, the shooting was always there from stalking. That's what we mainly done, and then with the long range, it just one of the things that I got exposed to through one of my good friends, and we started enjoying it a bit more. It started, taking us to different locations compared to where we'd normally go. We were seeing a lot more deer and stuff like that. So once again, it was just something that got into, and with me, if I focus on something long enough, I'll just fixate on it, and that's what I end up doing. And then getting to long range shooting, and then into reloading, and even going just on a weekend, going down and shooting targets. It's just fun when you start shooting long range.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definite attraction there to it, particularly when you go on trips and you see good deer, a long way away, and you think, geez, if only I could, stretch the legs a little bit, I might have a chance at that one if I could get a little bit closer. It might still be several hundred meters across the gully, but yeah, so it's definitely an area that I'm starting to venture into and getting really interested in,
Yeah.
building up that capacity. So for you, what would you consider? You used the term before, long range kill. What would you consider a long range shot now for you?
Well, I think that's the question that everyone wants to know. It's a very sore talking point, but I think in regards to long range, like everyone's perception of long range will be different. Some will be more comfortable than others, and it also comes down to just experience and exposure. Like there's a lot of guys out there shooting 1,000 yards. Have I shot 1,000 yards? No. I still do try and like to close the distance if possible. But at the same time, I'm more than happy to go out and shoot targets with friends, and we're still shooting 1,700 yards. And we're still getting first round hits on steel, but at the same time, if I saw a deer at that range, I wouldn't be taking that shot. I still would comfortably take anything out to 1,000 with no wind. But if I get the opportunity to cut the distance, I always do.
Yeah, 1,1700's fairly impressive, especially getting first.
It is
round.
on steel, but you wouldn't do it on an animal.
Yeah. And I think, and we did sort of discuss before that we were going to talk about some ethics and your opinion on that too. And I guess this is where the controversy lies with this form of hunting. Is that what people consider an ethical range really is governed by the individual, and I don't think it's fair of anyone to put a maximum range on something, because there are a lot of factors that go into it.
100%. It's like I said before, it all comes down to exposure and experience. Like there's quite a few guys who are absolute jets at shooting long range, and I think they're well above me in regards to reading wind and taking good shot placement at 1,000 yards. And then I also know guys who couldn't hit a deer at 20 yards. So it is very controversial, the question of what is long range, and I can understand how some people don't like it, but at the end of the day, if you're comfortable taking that range and you're confident about it, then
Are you all good?
I've got no idea what it is.
Is it the computer shutting down, or is it just the internet dropping out?
Oh, the screen just keeps turning off, but if I wiggle the mouse, it doesn't come back on.
Okay, all right. I think we were talking about ethical factors in terms of long-range hunting. I remember a diagram that I saw a while ago, and it talked about the trifecta of an ethical kill, and it was the 3 P's. So you had projectile, power, and placement, and all 3 of those, obviously in a triangle, are necessary for an effective and ethical kill on an animal. And you could probably, on the line of what we were talking about before, you could probably add in there, maybe a prowess as another one, so a person's experience in that field. And breaking it down, what it spoke about is making sure that you're using the right projectile for the type of animal that you're hunting. So obviously, a full metal jacket is not going to be appropriate for, depending on where you're shooting them as well. Placement, obviously hitting the animal in the right place, and then the right power behind the projectile. So, does it have the enough energy and velocity behind it to be effective as well? So, for example, a meat hunter or a pest controller might be appropriate for them to use full metal jacket projectiles because they're going to be only head shooting animals, and they know the effective range of their rifle. So within those, that would then be appropriate. But obviously, a full metal jacket is not going to be appropriate shooting a Sambar, with a broadside shot at 800 meters. So yeah, it's really comes down to making sure all of those factors are the right combination for what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more with you on that. And it does come down to obviously projectile choice in this apparatus for sure. And also caliber. Like there's a lot of calibers getting out there now. We got the 300 PRC, the new take off of the 300 Win Mag. I've got a lot of friends shooting them now, and they seem to be taking off quite well. And they come out with factory Hornady ammo, and once again, that ammo seems to work fine for itself. I've kind of always shot burger, so I've found something that works, and I have just stuck with it. As long as I can get the burgers, there obviously has been quite a big shortage over the last couple of years. I've stuck with them, and a few of the other boys have had to go to Hornady, and they're now using those. And same again, they're getting the same outcome because their shot placement's always been right.
So let's talk specifics then, and start off with your rifle. So give us a rundown on the rifle and the optics that you're using there.
Yep. So I've got two rifles that I mainly use. I've got a custom build 300 Win Mag that I've had for a while. That's it's from APRS actually. It's built on a Steel Attack 300 Action. It's now got a carbon 6 carbon barrel that I got from GC PD Precision, I believe it is, in New South Wales. They've been really good to deal with. It's now sitting in a carbon fiber Manners stock, which I got from APRS, and I've got a Kales 624i on top of it. I've actually had that rifle for a long time now, and over the years I've just swapped out bits and pieces to make it lighter, because it did start out as a target rifle. So that whole outfit there sits at about just over 4 kilos now.
Okay.
It's down from 7.6. And the other rifle that I built just before COVID and didn't get to use it was a 338 Lapua. So once again, I ordered all the parts, then went to the gunsmith, but that's a Defiance Ruckus Tactical Action. It's got a Madco number 5 barrel that I got from the crew up in Queensland. I've got a Macmillan's, I think it's got an A35 stock on it. It did have a Macmillan Hunter stock, but I swapped that out. And same again, I've got a Kales 624i. Like I said, it's just easy. I've got one on the other rifle, so it's not too much relearning. But just on that, Dave from Australian Gun Stock, sorry, he's been an absolute legend in regards to getting Macmillan stocks into Australia. So if anyone needs a stock, Australian Gun Stocks is his name, and they're actually bloody quick.
Yeah. Okay.
For how fast they are for a custom stock.
Okay. So the Carls, why did you pick them?
I think when it comes to scopes, everyone is going to tell you what they've got is the best, I guess, no matter what it is. So for the Kales, once again, a friend of mine had a Kales. I used it. I liked it. I didn't really see much point in spending $3,500 on something else if I'd never actually picked one up and used it before. So once I picked it up or used his rifle, it just worked. It was easy. It was simple. It was quite compact for what it is. And I bloody love them. They got good glass on them.
Yep. And they're first focal plane too, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So for long-range hunting, you obviously have a preference then for first focal plane scopes.
Yeah.
What do you see as being the advantages of a first focal plane over second focal plane for long-range stuff?
It's all personal preference. Like saying again, there's friends of mine who have second focal planes. I'm pretty sure the Swarovski is a second focal plane. No doubt I'm wrong, and someone will tell me that. But it's just easy, especially if you've got a Christmas tree, or if you've got if you're shooting MOA or MILRAD and you've got a crosshair with your markers on it. If you are doing a holdover, it is a lot easier to utilise those holdovers than what you are with a second focal plane.
Yeah.
But once again, once you're shooting in a hunting situation, it's very rarely I'll use a holdover if I don't need to.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're dialing for elevation. Are you holding for wind or dialing for wind?
All depends. If there's not too much of a breeze, I'll just hold. Like I said before, if it's windy, I very rarely take that shot. But I have had some instances that I will dial in for the wind
Yeah.
just to make sure.
Yeah. Okay. And are you MIL or MRAD?
I haven't converted yet. I'm still MLA. I get hassled and teased about it all the time by the other fellas, but like I said before, you pick a system that you know and you just stick with it.
Yeah. Sorry, I meant MOA and MOA or MRAD. Yeah, I a couple of years ago converted over to first focal plane and mil radian as well. Have been MOA all my shooting life and second focal plane. So it's been a learning curve, but mil has advantages, just particularly with maths, doing quick maths.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is all another deep pool that I'm diving into now as well.
It is an absolute rabbit hole when it comes to the two. And like we've sat on the hillside before arguing black on blue, what is better. I think you just got to use what works for you. And Milrad probably is nicer to use. I've worked out MOA because it's what I've always had. But for me, it also comes down to the dollar factor too. I know MOA, and for me to now go spend another $3,500-4,000 on a top end scope in Milrad, I just can't see the justice in it.
Yeah, yeah. And look, and I don't want this to sound critical, but a significant majority of the firearms industry is governed by what America wants, because they are such a huge population of hunters, and obviously that carries with it a significant dollar value as well. So that's going to basically dictate where the industry goes, and there's always going to be outliers, but a majority of it is going to be what the American market wants. And obviously Americans are vehemently opposed to the metric system in any form, so they want inches, yards, feet, all that sort of thing. So yeah, MOA is always going to be king in that regard, and the most popular. So but yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best or the easiest, and I'm not arguing either way, but I have certainly found the conversion over to mil to be easier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, definitely. You're definitely right in regards to that. But like I was saying before, having always used MOA, and when I first started shooting long range, and the guys that taught me, they were always MOA. It's kind of like second nature now. I reckon I'd struggle going to Milrad. People will probably laugh at that, but it's true.
Well, at the end of the day, it's just maths, isn't it? It's just numbers, and
yeah.
If everything across your system is suitable to, that you don't have to convert it over between one or the other, then it's going to work for you. So yeah, no point in creating work and heartache for yourself if you don't have to, I guess.
Well, that's true. And with all the technology that's out now, you do rely on a lot of it when you start going to long range. Even if you're down shooting a competition, you're still relying, on kestrels and ballistic data and stuff like that to give you readouts to then put on your cheat sheet or stuff like that. So I think the days of trying to, figure it out to the exact point, don't think those days really exist much anymore in our world, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think that's where the skill gets lost.
Yeah, there seems to be, the PRS seems to have sort of encouraged that tolerance to be bigger, because all you got to do is get a hit on steel. Doesn't matter if it's right on the edge, as long as it goes ding, that's a score. So, but again, that whole shooting discipline has created a new skill set in people. So, and certainly pushed the industry as well.
Yeah.
Give us some tips then on reading wind, because this is definitely one area that I need practice in, and I would say a lot of people who are going to shoot long range are going to need to develop a skill set in. And in fact, I read a quote the other day. I think it was through Applied Ballistics, and they said you don't need a one-hole gun; you need to learn wind.
Yeah. So in regards to reading wind, it's obviously the hardest thing to measure out of all of them, especially depending on where you're shooting. You could be shooting across the gully with wind coming from right angles, and you can't get a proper reading, or you could be shooting down a gully where the wind's coming up and cutting over. So I've started to learn reading mirage and reading leaves. So in the Wild Deer magazine, I think it was a few years ago, or the Australian Deer magazine, there was a write-up in there on how to read leaves, and at what angle the leaves are moving will give you an estimation of what speed the wind is doing.
Okay.
But I think the best tip to give someone in regards to someone who is getting into long range shooting of any aspect is go and shoot in different winds. If I go down to our range that we've got, I'll go down there. I'll try and guesstimate the wind by looking at the mirage and what the leaves are doing. I'll work out what I think it's doing. I'd then shoot still targets to see how accurate I was, and then I'll get my wind reading at my Kestrel out and see how close I was.
Okay. Yep. And then the other thing too about judging wind is depending on the distance, but obviously the longer the range you're shooting, the more the path of the bullet is affected by the differences in the wind. So the wind at the target might be completely different to the wind at the muzzle, which also might be completely different to the wind halfway down. So,
100%.
Yeah. So these are the...
I've taken the wind reading where I am, and it's coming over my right shoulder to my left, and then I'm looking at our flagpole that's out near the target, and it's literally going the opposite way. And that's why it's the hardest thing to read. And there are little tricks, I guess, if you do have wind like that, or if you're shooting across a gully where you're protected for half of it, and only half the last half is exposed. There's little maths you can do to like halve it or quarter what the wind's doing to get an estimate, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But the wind will be the hardest thing to learn, and I advise everyone go down to the range, whether it's Little River or whatever state you're in, and go on a windy day and give it a go.
Yeah.
Because it will be the thing that stuffs you up.
Yeah, yeah. And then you've got to look at the direction of the wind as well, and look at your windrows, and is it 17.5 degrees, or is it here, there, or whatever, and then do you take into consideration, or do you put more onus on the wind in the second half of the bullet path, because theoretically it's going to be going slower for that part, so it spends longer in the wind than it does from the muzzle to halfway, and all of these sort of things that, again, like I said, this is the deep hole that people can dive into.
100%, and there's a really good table that Applied Ballistics have done, and it's like a diagram of a guy laying prone on like a circular clock, I guess you could say it, with wind coming in from different angle. It must be like every 1/8 it changes direction the whole way around the table.
Yeah, I think it's about 7.5 degrees or something each.
Is it?
Each
yeah,
segment, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's telling you how much extra to add, and it's stuff like that it's worth reading that, understanding it, and then putting into practice. Obviously not on a live animal, but once again, go down the range, and I think the time in the seat is the best experience and exposure is you're going to get to wind.
Yep. Now, are you using any apps at all?
I was using the Shooter app. Same again. A good friend of mine who got me into long range shooting, he directed me on what app to use and what stuff like that. And the Shooter app is bloody good. It might be $14, I think.
Okay.
There's no upkeep membership. I think it's $14. I could be wrong. And then last year, I brought the new Kestrel. So I think it's I'm going to be lying here. I think it's like the 5500 Elite, maybe.
Yep.
And I only done it out of simplicity, just to have one unit that does everything. And that's pretty much what I run off. I pretty much do everything through the Kestrel.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's got that version of the Kestrel's got the applied ballistics
It
software in it,
does.
doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been pretty handy, especially with the true BCs that he's done. You can obviously pick your G1, your G7, and then you've got the applied ballistic BC.
Mm.
I've literally ranged my gun, I've put it over the chronograph, got the speeds, done all that stuff, and then shot it on paper at 100 yards as they tell you to do, and then I've taken it straight out to 1,000, and I think I was like 2 inches off bullseye, and that most likely could have been me.
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
I personally think the applied ballistic stuff's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. It is exy, but like I said, they've put a lot of work into it, and they're still continuously putting a lot of work
Yeah,
and research into it.
and that's the thing. When you look at this, will probably upset a few people, but when you look at the BCs of a Burger projectile compared to a Hornady, Burger have given you an average BC for that board over certain ranges,
Mm-hmm.
over multiple ranges. When you look at the Hornady ammo, they give you 3 BCs. And I think on the box, and once again, I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure on the box, they give you the BCs for like Mach 2.5. So you can pick up the box of Hornadies and you think they're ridiculously good BC. The A-tips are.
Mm.
But then when you actually work out what speed your projectile's going at, it actually brings it quite down a fair bit.
Okay. Yep. And with your reloading, where have you come from to where are you now with reloading?
So I've come from a place where I didn't even know what reloading was or a press, to I think I know a fair bit now. There's still a lot to learn. I think there always is a lot to learn. Two of my good mates, they reload, and I'm lucky because I've always had them to fall back onto.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot through them. My first long range rifle I reloaded from the get go. So I never shot factory ammo out of it. I was thrown in the deep end to learn, and if I didn't learn, I wasn't shooting.
Mm.
I've reloaded from mine now. I think my lap, well, I don't think I know my lap. I've got that group down to about 0.13 MOA with a 250 grain burger.
Mm-hmm.
I've helped other mates with theirs now, and same again. I think once you learn it, you definitely do appreciate it for what it is.
Yep. So what sort of gear are you using for reloading? Like what's your press? What are your scales?
So I actually went and brought one of the original Hornady reloading kits with the old rickety press that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was too rickety, so I brought another press. And after all these years, I'm still using the Hornady one for what it is.
Mm.
The run out is very minimal. It seems to work. It didn't break the budget. Like I've got a Forster coax press there as well. And between the two, I've reloaded on both of them, and I haven't seen much difference in between the two.
Yeah.
So I'm still using the Hornady press. There's plenty getting around. It all comes down to budget really, because once you start diving into reloading, it's nuts how much money you can spend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I still live by the saying of buy once, cry once when it comes to things. I run the A&D scales with the auto trickler,
Okay.
especially reloading for the 338. It can take me all day to reload for that, and now I can do 50 in an hour or so, really.
Mm.
And then yeah, like I said, it depends on how far down the rabbit hole you want to go. If you're going to annealing is another thing. I think that's another point where controversial point. Some do, some don't. Some say it works, some say it doesn't. I brought one at the time. Getting brass wasn't as easy, and getting good brass wasn't as easy, so I brought an annealer. So I do that out of I'll do that every time now. That's a part of the process of cleaning and reloading.
Yeah.
And then same again with neck turning prime pockets. There's heaps you can do.
Yeah.
Do you need to do it all? I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Do you need to do it all? Well, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I mean,
I
when you
think I find comfort in doing it all, A, because I'm already there doing it.
mm,
So for the sake of doing, an extra step, I just think it's worth doing. And my my Win Mag, I think that's shooting a 215 grain projectile at about 2988, I think it is.
mm,
And I was up the bush, well, not up the bush, on private property shooting some targets with a friend of mine, who had done some reloading for his rifle. And I got the Win Mag out, and I haven't shot it in probably a year. And the first round I put through it, it was 2988. So got exactly the same speed. So I just keep doing it. I've got a process that I've put together, and if it's wasting time, then so be it. I just do it.
yeah. Look, I think amongst the ability for the rifle to perform, confidence in the rifle is a big factor in shooting accurately and consistently. If people have confidence in their setup, in their ammunition, in the repeatability of their scope and that sort of thing, then that, is a major contributor to, amongst all of the other things, or obviously all the processes and skills that you need. But yeah, so I agree. If it's something that you're doing that it gives you confidence in the setup, then keep doing it for that reason alone.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing. There are quite a few rifles that are coming out now, and I've used the PRC for an example before. Like, they make fairly good ammo for what they are. And that's the thing about Hornady, is their cartridge. So they've just come out with this awesome, super duper, fairly accurate ammo, and it's just light years compared to some of the other stuff that you buy in regards to factory ammo.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's Hornady's business, so of course marketing is a big part of it, and they want to make money off us. So of course they're going to support their own products and their own cartridges better than a lot of the others. But when you're sort of reading a lot of people showing really good results with the factory ammo, that kind of, I guess, could be, for somebody who was thinking about getting into reloading, that could be a deterrent for them. But then you also don't have the personal satisfaction of building something, creating the ammunition, and then getting the result from it.
And that's another thing. Like, if I've had a big day at work, sometimes I don't mind going in the garage and just shutting the garage door, putting on some tunes, and just reloading, even though I'm not going to go shooting for a while. I'll just enjoy the process of doing it.
Yeah. Having said that, however, it can be an extremely frustrating process when you go to all that effort and get out there and you don't get the results you want, and you waste all those components. But that's just part of the process. Yeah.
It's doing a load development for any rifle is never cheap. And the bigger cartridge you go, as I found out going to the 3-threat Lapua, it's like I've burnt some powder trying to find the magic node. But to be honest, it didn't take me too long. But yeah, you definitely do chew a few projectiles, and primers. They're the hardest thing now. So you don't want to be wasting them too often.
Yeah. So the process that you then go through from your reloading to finding the right load, are you sort of doing the saddle method, or do you have another technique?
I've got a technique that I've kind of used and works for me. Same thing again. There's so many different techniques now on what you look for. My Win Mag, when I done the load development for that, obviously I pretty much just shot paper and then worked out with my powder charge which one was the tightest, and then stuff around with seating depth, etc. And I ended up finding a good node with that, and that's why now I think my deviation's like 3 or 4 feet per second, which isn't too much. with the lap, I went down a different route, and I pretty much done my powder charge test over my lab radar, and I just kept shooting it, and then found the spike, and then the higher spike where it seemed to get the most bang for buck. That's where I started doing my seeding test and or my seeding depth test, and once again, I kept tweaking it, and then finding the node that way.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many now, and you go online and you type it in different ladder tests and this and that, and there's a few boys that I know that have asked me what I use, and I know do something different. And I think it's just one of those things that there's 1,000 ways you can skin a cat.
Yeah, yeah.
Just find one and stick to one, so you don't burn through too many rounds.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's probably no right or wrong answer in that regard. But yeah, just curious to see because that sort of method that you were talking about, doing your powder charge and then looking for the flat spots and then testing your seeding depth around there seems to be sort of the most prevalent one at the moment. But yeah, everybody's got their own way of doing things.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There could be a way that's 10 times quicker than mine. There no doubt is. Well, there's a lot of things that I still don't know about it that I'm learning. But I think you just got to ask yourself, what do you want out of it? Like in regards to accuracy, what are you looking for? Because there's a lot of factory ammo that I've shot out of my Tika that shoots sub MOA or shoots half MOA. I think myself and a few of my friends, we just get caught up on, we want to be hole through hole all the time.
Mm. And on this episode of the Friends of the Podcast segment, I'd like to welcome Nick from Bigham Forge. Now, is it Bigham or?
Yeah, Bigham.
Yep. Right. So, Nick, I came across your Instagram page a little while ago, and you had a folding knife on there that is what drew my attention, because I do know that folding knives are their own little intricacies, and so I was quite impressed that you took on the challenge of designing and making a folding knife. But Nick, if you just want to start off by introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about your background and so forth.
So, Nick, I'm actually a career firefighter down here in Victoria with Fire Rescue Victoria. Predominantly, we just do the urban firefighting these days. We've got a pretty strong volunteer base that does the big bushfires and stuff. Mm-hmm. We go out and help where we can. But yeah, so being a firefighter, we sort of had a bit of a chat before this. We were able to have a job with it whilst still having a job, so got a fair bit of time off.
Yep.
We work a couple of night shifts, and then you can do stuff during the day. And I'm pretty lucky that I've got a pretty understanding wife who lets me just nick off to the shed and just go tinker around and work through some of the stuff that I have to deal with at work. So
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. And what was it that led you into doing the knife making?
Yeah, well, like I said, I've always been that. You have a pretty terrible job, and you come home and you just don't want to sit around and dwell on it and that sort of stuff. So I usually just go out in the shed and just start welding things together, or I jump on the computer and do some computer design work, CAD.
Yep.
And then it was around that COVID time, around mid 2020. I had a friend message me, and he was like, "I want you to design this belt sander for me, this 2x72-inch belt sander, on the cheap, because they're pretty expensive. I think they're up around the $5,000-6,000 Australian mark."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Can you do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, no worries." So I designed that up, and I was out in the shed tinkering around and put it all together with scrap parts and a couple of motors I had laying around, and I ended up building it. And in the end, he didn't want it. I'm like, "Oh, well, now I've got this knife making belt sander. I'm just gonna give it a go." So I got an old gas bottle and I built a forge, and I stuck some steel in the forge and started hitting on it, and I'll tell you what, I've never looked back. It was, there's something about, when you're having a pretty crappy day, you go out there and you can just wail on a bit of steel and it turns into something. It makes you feel that a little bit better. So that's sort of what got me into it. And now I use it as, any time that I sort of just need a bit of a break from reality, I just go out there and I start hitting a bit of steel until it looks something like a knife shape.
Yeah. All right, very cool. And alternative to that, it's going out and lifting heavy things around the gym.
Yeah. So I'm a competitive power lifter as well. Once again, fire has got me into that. I went into the gym to stay strong for my job, and I took it that little bit too far, and now I'm a competitive power lifter who I've reached some pretty great heights. I've done invitational only events here in Australia, podiumed at those, and I'm 32 and I'm already looking at a new shoulder. So it's
yeah. Nick, like I said, I stumbled across your Instagram, and not long after that, you had a bit of a competition going, or a giveaway sort of thing to try and build your client base as well, and you ended up giving away a nice looking knife. And unfortunately, I didn't win it, but won't hold that against you. But I've seen
always next time.
I see you've got a few different designs on there, and some of them are obviously based around the sort of hunting sort of thing, and then there's a kitchen knife and so forth. So do you have a particular passion for a style of knife, or are you you're still sort of finding your way through and just happy to do whatever comes organically?
Yes and no. Like I enjoy doing the hunting style knives, the outdoor style knives. I like to throw the swag on the back of the ute and just go find a spot to pitch, and doing a little bit of whittling and that sort of stuff. So I prefer those outdoor sort of bushcraft sort of knives. But at the end of the day, everyone at home's got a kitchen and everyone uses a knife in a kitchen. So I think the market's a little bit bigger for that. So that's why I branched off into chef's knives a little bit more. But yeah, the passion is probably around those hunting and bushcraft knives.
Yep.
I've got a lot of fire friends who we spoke about go out hunting, and they did a little bit of R&D for me, trying to get like a good belly skinner and that sort of stuff. Go out, field test it, see how they stack up. Is the edge geometry right? Is it too skinny? Is it pulling the hair out, or is it cutting the hair? I'm sure there's some deer out there that have like real straw-like hair, and if you go cutting it too much, then it spoils the cuts. And so just trying to find that perfect edge angle where you can process a deer efficiently without wrecking it. So So yeah, a fair bit of R&D went into the skinners. Just trying to work out what to go from here.
Yeah. I think I sort of got a bit of an interest in knives years ago myself, obviously through the hunting and so forth. And the more I read about it, and trying to work out why custom and high-end knives were so much, I came to realise how much actually does go into it. Like you say, the edge geometry and the hardness and the material, and plus all the labour, of course, that goes into it as well. So yeah, it's interesting to hear you talk about all that, and it's not just about producing a knife. Like you can jump onto eBay and buy 100 knives for the price of a good custom knife, but guarantee along the way they're all going to let you down somehow. I certainly appreciate the value of a good custom or high-end knife.
That's actually nice to hear that. I get a lot of people say to me, I can just go to the hunting shop and buy this $100 one, and like yeah, you can, but it doesn't come with the story either. It doesn't come with that hand forge. It was produced in a factory. It was done this, and it's probably that cheap steel they can bust out 100 knives for 10 cents. So
Yep, yep.
yeah,
Oh, they grind the edge on it and overheat it, and then you've got a soft spot on it somewhere, and of course that's where it chips. And yeah, I've been there, mate. I've done that. I've sworn myself off them now. So
yeah.
yeah,
And like I said, the story that comes with it too. Like I just did a set for a hunter, and he got a 6-inch bush knife with a little skinner that used the same. It was just a shed antler,
yep,
and yeah, same antler on both sets with a matching sheaths, and
yep.
and he loves it. He's out there. I think he's stalking this weekend actually, or the weekend just gone. Gone out there and put them to use. So it's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. No, I saw those on your Instagram. Yeah, very nice. Yeah. So, are you intending on producing your own sort of line and releasing a standard set of knives, or are you just going to do custom, or is it a sort of mixture in between?
Yeah, I don't. Look, I've got the standards, the standard shapes, but I'm pretty big on, if someone's coming to me for a custom knife, they should have the ability to design it themselves too. So basically, if someone wants to get in contact with me, I'll do a specific drawing up for what you want, for your hand size, for or I don't like this much belly, or I want a gut hook on it, or something like that. Like, yeah, no worries, let's do it. Down to I want a paracord handle with a lanyard, or I want some composite G10, just because when you're processing, it gets pretty icky. So um, something that I can clean pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go pretty out there and get African ebony and wood handle and get pretty fancy.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
I like to give the say customer, but the person buying the knife, it's their knife. They can sort of get what they want. I just I just want to have that ability to have a little bit of artistic flair with it.
And the folder that you made there,
Yeah.
how much of a headache was that to do?
Oh, that was insane. That was
Mm.
absolutely insane. So that was the fourth folder I've actually done. I did one for myself. Um, my first one out of a ladder pattern Damascus. It was about a 240 layer Damascus, and looked amazing, and it was really good. And because the issue, as a fiery, it's really hard to find a knife that does everything we need it to do. Like, you've got the Leathermans out there, and you've got but it's not really designed specifically for a firefighter. And then you go and you have a look online and you see these rescue knives and all that sort of stuff. And
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, they're cool, but like I said, it's still that produced in a factory somewhere with cheap steel, and they're tried and tested, and I get all that, but I just wanted that little bit of flair. So I've gone and designed my own, and I did some R&D with that, and I've cut some pretty heavy duty ropes. I've cut through some electrical cords, and held up pretty well. And then a fiery said to me, he goes, "Oh, I want one, but I want it big. I want it strong. I want it brute." And I'm like, "Yeah, no worries. So let's do it." So I took on that challenge, and I think I put about 80 hours into that one knife just to get the locking mechanism right. And like it's relatively easy to get a good locking knife, but one's strong enough that you can put to the abuse of what a firefighter would. Got a firefighter proof it. It's
Yep.
we're monkeys with hammers, most of us. So make it strong enough that we can put it through some abuse, and it come up really well. I was pretty happy with it. He's happy with it. It's probably not something that I will do for everyone. Just cost wise, time wise, and just mind. It
Yep.
was just a bit too much for me.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. All right, no worries. All right. Well, what's the best way for people to have a look at, see what you've got on offer, or what you've done before, and then reach out and contact you?
Yeah, so like I said, my Instagram, Bigham_Forge. Um, that's basically all I've got as a business sort of standpoint there. So if you want to contact me through that, it's not. I've probably made over 100 knives, and I don't have 100 photos on there. It's social media is one of those things that I need to get a little bit better at, and start producing more content. I try and every day I'm on the forge, out there in the forge, I try and get a story up. And so if you just want to follow me and get on board and just see what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis and sort of get an understanding on what actually goes into making handcrafted knives. And even if you don't purchase through me or make contact with me, just get an understanding what the other knife makers here in Australia do. It's one of those crafts. It's coming back, and it's doing really well. So if you can support those local businesses, it makes it a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. All right. Well, look, I'll put some details in the show notes of the podcast anyway. But I look forward to seeing what else you come up with.
Yeah. Keep an eye out. There's some things in the works. So.
Yeah. All right. Great. In terms of getting components and so forth, have you always been able to source them from Australian distributors, or have you had to look at importing stuff from overseas?
I haven't imported just because of how expensive it is. Through COVID, there was a massive shortage in projectiles, but once again, we couldn't shoot anyway, so it wasn't like I was going through them. Once again, like we were talking about before in regards to how big America is in shooting, they were soaking up a lot of their components, and I do know that because of the big demand for factory ammo, that's where all the primers were going, and I think we're still suffering for that. I don't think there's too many federal primers getting around or CCIs. I could be wrong. I haven't looked for a while. But everything I've pretty much brought in regards to components, I've been able to source. Whether it's through Mansfield Hanging Fishing, they've been pretty good. They've always got good stock. And H&S Precision, same again. They've always had stuff that I've been after when I've been after it.
Yep.
Or if you want to just get projectiles, a good spot's the Q store, which is in Queensland. And once again, they're the ones who get hit the hardest. Everyone's having a go at them for not having the right thing, but they can only get what's on the boat.
Yeah. No, I've managed to source a few things through the Q store, so I know them well.
Yeah.
And BRT is another one, Bentress Tactical. They're up in Queensland as well. They're doing pretty good things too. I did. Have you heard of Hammer bullets?
No.
They're lathe turned monolithic bullets come out of the States. Anyway, a couple of years ago, I ended up during COVID actually, that I decided I wanted to try them, and ended up going down the line of having to get an import permit and getting them shipped over. It wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, and I wasn't met with as much resistance as I thought I was going to be. But when I realised that I could do it, I ended up getting some ADG brass sent over from Unknown Munitions.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It wasn't cheap at all. I'll preempt it with that. But yeah, it was the only stuff that I could get at the time, because there was just nothing. I've got a 338 Remington Ultra Mag.
Yeah.
So yeah, wasn't not a lot of components around Australia. It's not a popular caliber over here.
Yeah, a friend of mine shoots a 338 Ultra Mag too, and he struggled hard getting brass. I think it was either nozzle brass for a while. I don't know what he's got now, but he was very precious about what he was shooting and when.
Yeah, it almost breaks your heart when you split a case after firing it.
Well, that's the drama I was having with the normal brass. Even out of my Win Mag, I was stretching primer pockets after like 2-3 rounds. I was shooting them quite hot, but I've now swapped both rifles over to lapel brass, and I've got no dramas with case longevity.
Yep.
I think my lap's up to maybe 8 or 9 reloads now out of the lapel brass, and I've had no signs of splitting necks or stretched primer pockets or anything.
Yep.
It's just expensive, but I think once you get to reloading and long range in particular, and I don't think anything's cheap.
No. Look, got to spend your money on something, I guess. So might as well spend it on something you're going to enjoy.
Well, there's way worse addictions to have than shooting long range or shooting in general.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
So you might as well enjoy it.
So where obviously Sambar's the prime focus for you, without obviously giving away your honey holes or whatever. Where are some sort of locations where you found the ability to get out there and stretch the legs on an actual animal?
It's a big question because, like, I predominantly hunt public land. I don't have a lot of private land access, but when I do get on private property, like once we're on farm fringe, once again, it all depends on how far you want to shoot. But if we're within 500 yards on private property, I'd still call that long range. But in regards to into public land, I think a lot of Victoria, you can have a shot at doing long range. Obviously, you don't want to be going up there and shooting targets on public land, but I think the accessibility down here has been as good as what it's ever been in regards to that style of hunting.
Yeah, coming back to like you said, the ranges before and target shooting on public land. I'm not sure about the legalities of shooting on public land down there, like using it as a range as such. Unfortunately, in Queensland, we got screwed a little while ago, for want of a better term, when Queensland Police apparently received a few complaints about some of the ranges around, and they came out and resurveyed them and then decided that they were going to put a calibre restriction in place. So there's actually, I think, only 1 or 2 ranges in Queensland now that I can actually shoot my rifle at.
Yep.
Yeah, the main one at Belmont, just outside of Brisbane there. I think pretty much anything over 7 rem mag is too big for it. So
we're in the same boat in regards to that down here. As far as I know, you can't shoot targets on public land. Alpine National Park, you're only allowed to shoot deer, and that is it. So for us, it's Little River, which it can be a pain in the ass because it's a couple of hours away, and that's it. You're going down to Little River with all your reloading gear, as many others do, and you're doing it down there. I'm lucky enough to have access to some private property. A couple of friends have farms, and they also reload, and there's been plenty of weekends where we've gone down there with the utes and all the loading gear bolted to the back of it and trying to do our load development out there. But once it's all set up and dialed in and you've got your load worked out, very rarely we're shooting targets anymore. It's too expensive.
So other than Victoria, have you hunted anywhere else?
I've done a bit. I want to say a bit. I've gone into New South Wales a couple of times on the pigs. In regards to long range, no, it's only been Victoria only. When I was living in the NT for a couple of years, it was pig hunting madness, as you can imagine.
Yep.
I actually was booked in to go to New Zealand this year, and work commitments ended up popping up, and my leave didn't get approved of, and I was watching everyone else fly over there while I stayed at work. So hopefully next year is my turn to go over there.
Yeah. I've got a trip planned for May, so starting to get stuff ready and prepare for that, and want to get the rifle. I bought a Night Force NX8 to go on it. I've just got it at the gunsmith at the moment, getting some work done. So when it comes back, the Night Force will go on it and do a bit of load development. I've got some burgers, 250 burgers there that I want to load up to take over on that trip. So yeah,
it definitely sounds like the place to be if you're a hunter over there. It's obviously all this permit stuff is where you need to get your head around. Make sure you've got all your T's crossed and your I's dotted, and make sure that nothing hinders you getting over there with your rifle, so you can have your fun.
Yeah, going through that process now. I did it a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago now, when I went to America. And America is obviously very different. The hardest time we had was actually getting the rifle out of Australia.
I have heard that.
Yeah, getting it into America, they couldn't do enough for us. They were, come on over, guys. We'll look after you. And the bloke that was doing the rifle inspection, he wanted to talk about hunting with us and where we were going and what our plans were and the hunting that he'd done and that sort of thing. And yeah, they couldn't have been more welcoming. So yeah, I've just gone through the ABF applications and so forth, submitted all that paperwork, and I've got the online submission into New Zealand Firearms Registry at the moment. I'm waiting to hear back from them, but yeah, it does make you nervous because you've gone ahead and because you got to buy your plane tickets before you make the application, because they need to know when you're coming and how you're coming and the flight number and so forth. So if for some reason they don't approve it, then yeah, there's going to be a mad scramble to try and source a rifle over there or work it out.
So I've also heard that even taking rifles to Africa. I've got a few friends who've gone over there and done the Plains games and the big games and stuff like that. And I've asked the same question, like, how hard is it to get your rifle over there? And everyone I speak to says the same thing. It's harder getting it out of Australia because of our laws, the way that we operate. And you look anywhere in the world, it just seems like Australia is just so they struggle to accept hunting for what it is.
Yeah.
Whereas no matter else where you go, where else in the world you go, everyone hunts and everyone eats wild game. And we just aerial cull it and just leave it there to rot. And that seems to be our answer for it.
Yeah. And look, coming back to my experience leaving Australia, and I'm certainly not criticising the Australian Border Force, but the young girl who was reviewing our firearms and our paperwork on the day had almost next to no experience with firearms. She didn't know what she was looking at. She had no idea about the different types of firearms and, didn't know where to look for the serial number, didn't understand what the difference in the action was, so I had to virtually walk her through it all. I could have done it myself, like I could have ticked the forms myself for the amount of work that I did, but that's just an unfortunate aspect of, I guess, the law enforcement training capacity in Australia.
And that's the thing. It's like, in her defence, it's not, she probably doesn't see it that often. And there's probably going to be a lot of things that they aren't going to know in regards to firearms. But it just seems like Australia, not all of Australia, but Australia seems so detached away from the hunting lifestyle and getting back to your bare roots. It seems like we just don't like it. Whereas, I've got friends who have never eaten venison before, and I give it to them. They can't believe it's venison. It's like, it's great. Yeah. And it's accessible to anyone. Yep,
that's right. I was talking to, Chris Boone.
I haven't met him personally. I've spoken to him a few times on the gram.
Yeah.
He's very passionate.
And we were talking about that as well, and about how fortunate we are to have a place like Victoria in Australia where you can literally drive down there, park your car at the gate, put on a backpack, grab your rifle, and then walk and hunt. We don't need to buy tags. We don't need to ask for permission. We don't, need to, other than having obviously the game licensing requirements in place. Other than that, we've got free reign of millions and millions of acres of national park.
And that's right. And I kind of like the stuff he's been putting up. I think he just done a video on YouTube about what you think deer hunting is, and we need more people like that are passionate and want to spend the extra time to do these videos and show everyone else that it's not what these bad things that everyone thinks it is. And it's a lot of people still do live off the land. Like, I know we can go down the street and buy meat, but there's a lot of people that still rely on deer meat, whether it's for them and their families or whatever. The whole mental health aspect of it, like a lot of people go away just to get away from the noise of the everyday life that we live in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was another thing we discussed as well. And I've spoken to a few other people about that, about the mental health benefits of being out there, being immersed in nature and disconnected from that everyday life and from your devices and from the pushes and pulls of modern day life.
100%, and especially in the work environment that we're in, it's very fast paced. Before I met my partner, I was going away every weekend. I was up in the high country every weekend. I was allowed to be up there. So I think the park shuts to hunting. I think like the 15th of December is the last day that you can hunt up there, and it doesn't start again until the 15th of Feb. Which over that period of time, it's too hot anyway. But I think there was 2 years where I nearly done every weekend up there in between work.
Yeah.
Now that the bosses are around, it doesn't happen that much often, but she still lets me get up there quite a fair bit, which is good, because for my mental health in COVID, I was struggling not being able to go away. The isolation wasn't even the bit that worried me. It was just not being able to go up the bush and have a hunt, go for a walk, go for a fish, just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah. And so, using COVID as the segue, then COVID was kind of the birth canal of Alpine Accuracy for you.
It was. So it was a bit of a blessing in disguise, to be honest. Once again, I had to have something to occupy me. I just built my 338 at that stage. I'd done multiple backpack hunts with my Win Mag that was currently weighing at 7.6 kilos. I was carrying three or four shooting bags for different heights because of the bipod setup I had and stuff like that. And because I had so much time, I was like, I'm going to nut this thing out, and I'm just going to put all my time into that to keep me focused and not worry about in this lockdown that we were in Melbourne. And I just kept at it, just kept making things and trying them at home. Obviously, I couldn't go and shoot them, but I was definitely trying to make the best one I could before I took it to the field to use it.
And again, you're one of a number of small business owners that I've spoken to who design things out of a need that they identified for themselves, and then have shared it with mates, and mates have gone, mate, this is fucking brilliant. You could sell this, and then next minute you've got a business up and running.
100%. And when I set out to do this, all I wanted was one. I just wanted one for me that was in blaze orange. I wasn't even worried about going ultralight. Just wanted one in blaze orange, and obviously no one was going to make me a one off. But then, once again, the deeper I dove into the rabbit burrow and trying to perfect something, the more things I found and the more things I tried, and here we are.
And do you see this is your vision for the business to sort of overtake what you're doing now and move into it, or is it just going to be a side gig for you?
I would at some stage like to give up construction. I think I've done it for too long, and I want to get out of it before I become one of these grumpy old men. For me, I enjoy doing what I'm doing in regards to making these shooting bags, but I want to make sure that whatever I'm making and selling to the public or providing to the public, and something that they're going to use. We did talk about the hats that I made being apparel. I want to stay away from that because anyone can kind of do that. I want to make something that somebody's going to go out and use. If I can keep coming up with these ideas, then I'd like to keep going with it, 100%.
Yep.
This year's definitely taken off a bit more than the last 2 years, and I'd probably put that all down to me being absolutely useless in doing content. I think that's probably the hardest thing about having a new business getting going, because it's people's money that they're spending, and they want to also make sure that what they're buying is going to fulfill their needs too, and it's not going to fall apart. Hence the reason why I've tried to use the best stitching I can get. I've tried to use the best cordura that I can get.
Yeah.
And it always good. It's a 1000D cordura, so it's heavy duty. Anything above 500 is good. So I've tried to go that one step ahead, one step bigger to use something different that other people aren't using.
Yep.
And I'm still running the same one for the last 2 years, and haven't even had one stitching pull on it yet. And I'm pretty rough on stuff, to be honest.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm very good at breaking stuff.
You want to test something, give it to you, and you'll find a way to break it.
100%. Yeah. Same as bipods. I think I've been through, I don't even know how many bipods I've been through. Either they don't work, or I don't like them, or there's something wrong with them. I think I just always find things wrong with something. And yeah, I've now got one that I use, and I swear by it now. It's good. It works well with the bag setup that I run.
Yeah. Okay. What one are you running now?
I'm actually running a MDT SkyPod, so it's not exactly ultralight, but the multiple settings that come on that. Well, when I say multiple settings, the adjustment in that bipod is ridiculous, depending on heights, angles of legs. If you're shooting in the heels, it literally covers you for all bases.
Yep. Okay. Do they use a pick rail or some other sort of fitting on your stock?
So they've got 3. I think they've got like a normal sling stud attachment now, I think. But then they've got the pick rail, which I started off on, and then I gone to an arc rail actually. Reason being is my carbon fiber tripod is also arc rail. So if there is a time that I need to shoot off it, I can.
Yeah. Arca seems to be sweeping through the industry now. Everybody seems to be having to accommodate it. Yeah.
Well, especially once your cameras and your spotting scopes and all that, if everything's one rail, life's just so much easier.
Yeah. I think a couple of spotting scopes are actually coming out with an Arca compatible fitting actually molded into them. So, so you don't need to add an Arca plate to it.
Yeah.
In terms of some other gear that you're using for the backpacking, give us a rundown on some of your favourite gear there. So the 3 big ones that I normally start with are backpack, boots, and bedding system. So tents can be included in the bedding system.
Yeah. So boots wise, I've gone through quite a few pairs of boots, and I've now been caught up on the Crispies, actually, the Crispy Nevadas. I rate them. I really do rate them. I reckon they're an absolute fabulous boot. And like we said before, I trashed everything that I've got, and I'm still on the first pair over the last couple of years. I actually brought a second pair just because I wasn't too sure how long they'll go, but they're absolutely amazing, those boots. Sleeping gear. So I run the QU Mountain, I think it's the Mountain Star 2P, 2-person tent. I just find the 2-person tent gives me a bit more room for all my gear, especially if it rains. I like to have everything inside, and if you're lugging around a $9,000 rifle, it's not exactly something you want to leave outside in your vestibule or whatever.
I do like sleeping with my rifle.
It's nice. It's a nice security thing, even though nothing's ever going to happen. It is nice having a 2-person tent. I also have the Kuyu in the 1-person tent. Depending on where I'm going, I will take it. And then in regards to sleeping system, everything I've got Cedar Summit. So same again. There's probably 10 other products that do the same thing. Cedar Summit's just something I used. It worked with the price range. It worked with the weight range that I was in, and I find their gear comfortable. So I've got the Spark 3 sleeping bag, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Weight range, I don't know what it is. I think it's like 650 grams and comfort ratings -10, maybe.
Yep.
I could be wrong. I don't get caught up in that stuff too much. The Cedar Summit Etherlight mattress. I'm a massive side sleeper,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I'm about 95 kilos. So being a sleeper and that 100 mil mattress, it's bloody good. That.
Yep.
I actually had an issue with my first one, and my warranty was just about up, and they replaced it, no questions asked, which is really good customer service as well. So I can't fault that.
Yep.
My luxury item is probably my Cedar Summit Super Down pillow.
Yeah. I've looked at getting those actually. I went to a pillow a couple of years ago and improved my sleep. I'm a back sleeper, so I don't need a big pillow, but I know side sleepers definitely do. In fact, some side sleepers talk about carrying 2 pillows with them.
Yeah, well, look, I know I watch a lot of Zeb's videos, and I know he's he's a minimalist,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll probably laugh at me taking a pillow, but I don't care. I'm taking it.
Oh, look,
That's my luxury feature.
it's what, 50 grams or something like that. Yeah, it's such a minimal weight penalty that you might as well.
Oh, 100%. And that's the thing. I think when you're doing like one night or two nights, I don't really bother about what I'm taking. Like sometimes I'll just wear, my Swazi tracky pants. But it's like once you get out to that 5, 6 days, I think the most we've done 8. I like being comfortable.
Mm.
It's a long time sleeping in a tent when the weather's shit.
Mm.
You might as well be comfortable.
Yeah, that's right. Look, I say this all the time. Everybody's got their tolerance for discomfort, and everybody's level is different. And then once you go past that level, then the trade-off is more weight. So people like Zeb, absolutely. Like I remember one of his videos, he was complaining about carrying a pack that weighed 18 kilos. That was a heavy pack for him. So he has a much higher tolerance to discomfort, and he's only doing 2 or 3 nights a lot of the time as well. But yeah, if you're on the longer trips, and then personal tolerance as well. Some people need more gear, or they're prepared to carry the weight to carry more gear for that extra level of comfort.
100%. So when I first started out, obviously our first backpack hunt, I didn't know a fucking thing on what to take. We ended up, I had like a Cedar Summit eggshell mattress, which I actually used for quite a long time. And I didn't have a bivy bag. I just went and brought what was it? I think it was like an $80 Coleman's tent on special from from Anaconda, sorry. And we just slept under a tarp. And that night was a rude awakening to being comfortable. I froze my ass off. Come home, went and brought a Cedar Summit Latitude 3 sleeping bag, I think it is. I got it from Morocco 30. Unreal bag, but then I went straight to the other end of the spectrum. All I done was sweat all night.
Yeah.
So I think, you do have to work out where you're hunting, I think, and try and find a happy medium. In summer, I run it's a Cedar Summit Ember Quilt.
Yep.
And I think it's the lightest one they make. And that's really good in summer. But once again, when you're going back into winter, I don't know, at night it was -7 with that. And my kidneys were hurting. I was that cold. And then I think we were up at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, stoking the fire, and we ended up sleeping out there. It was warmer next to the fire than what it was in the tent. So it has been a bit of hit and miss in regards to sampling different things and trying to find the right thing for what I've done.
Yeah. And that's one of the complications about Victoria as well, is that, it can be snowing in November, and you can be sweating in July. So, yeah, it kind of likes throwing curveballs at you.
100%. I think it was last year or the year before we were at the bush around Australia Day weekend. I think it was Australia Day weekend, and there was snow up on Mount Buller. And welcome to Victoria.
Yeah. And your backpack, what are you running there?
Uh, so I'm a fanboy of the EXO. I know I'll get a lot of shit for it, but I've had three EXOs now. Just trying to find the right, and I say trying to find the right one. My first one was the 3500, I think it was,
Hmm.
and it was good. I'm one of these people who carry a lot of shit, so I ended up going to the 5500, which was the K2, I think it is. And I treated myself last year, so I brought the new K4, which is the 5000 cubic inch.
Yeah.
Before that, I had a couple of those herbal stock packs, and once you put weight in them, they just don't handle. And I think that's what it comes down to. Any I'd say any pack, but a lot of packs handle a certain way. But then once you're over that 20, 25 kilo, the good ones really set themselves apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
What are your
I've
thoughts?
had.
Sorry,
What's
go
that?
on.
Sorry, I've had all my long range gear. So I've had my rifle, obviously my shooting bag, my tripod, all that, my sleeping gear, and I've had a Sambar spiker. So I've had two back legs, a front leg, and the back straps in my XO, and it was my legs that was given out. It was my shoulders.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I bought myself a case for as well.
Yep.
I bought a Stone Glacier last year and took that on a trip, and then I decided that I wanted to try the K4 as well, so I bought one of those. Um, and I haven't had it on a big trip yet. I've had it out a couple of times on some smaller, 1 and 2 nighters, and just testing it. And yeah, I'm still not firmly committed to it
Yep.
over the Stone Glacier. I just have found the Stone Glacier just seemed to fit me a lot better. And I swapped out the hip belt on the K4. I sent it back, and they sent me a smaller size, I think, or did they send me a larger one? No. I had a large, and I swapped it out for a medium. And to their credit, again, talking about customer service before, they sent it to me. I had to pay for shipping over there, but then they shipped it back to me for free. Swapped it out, even though it was used and so forth. Gave me a brand new one, no questions asked. So yeah, ever since I've had the medium hip belt, I haven't done any real weight in it yet. So I'm willing to give that a go and see if it improves it. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. But I'm not in love with it just yet.
And that's the thing with packs. I think they're like shoes. Like people would sit there and argue. And I know Tony Gillihan's done this. People will argue over lowers and crispies, and it's the same with backpacks. People will argue over Exo and Stone Glacier, and everyone I know with Stone Glacier, which is 10 times more than people I know with Exo, they love them. They wouldn't even bother trying another pack.
Mm.
It's like a relationship. They wouldn't even bother looking for a different one.
Mm.
And then I'm the same thing, but I think body types too will also suit different packs. I think even on the EXO page they said that the difference between the K3 and the K4, like if your body type is this and you had a K3, you then wouldn't go by the K4.
Okay. Yeah.
They built that pack to accommodate the people that didn't like the K3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So I might go put on a Stone Glacier and say fuck the EXO.
yeah.
There's a fair chance of that happening. I just don't have the money to buy two.
Yeah. Well, apparently I do. So, but I thought if I'm going to, I really wanted to give it a go, and just see whether there was any significant difference. And the beauty is, when you buy good gear like that, as long as you look after it, you can usually sell it on the second-hand market for without making too much of a loss on it.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, no, and coming back to the boots again, that's exactly the same. That's a very individual thing, and people can argue back and forth about crispy, lower, Mindall, many other brands out there, but if there's no point in what I've learned over the years through trial and error and a lot of money, Just because your mate wears these boots and he loves them does not mean at all that they are going to fit you and suit your feet.
100%.
Yeah, and I've spent, oh God, I'd hate to think if I added it up how many hundreds and hundreds of dollars on boots over the years, probably thousands. It would be in the thousands of boots over the years, based on recommendations from either people that I've met or you read an article and somebody recommends these boots because the company sends them, and of course they write an article saying they're the most comfortable boots they've ever worn. But yeah, it doesn't work that way. So
Yeah. So for me, I think the most comfortable boots I've ever owned were the Solomon Quest 43s, maybe.
Yep.
I reckon they were unreal. The only reason why I don't have them now is A, how expensive they are for how long they last in the country we hunt. They just don't stand up to it.
Yeah.
But in regards to comfort, they're unreal.
Yeah. I'd probably almost agree with you there. I had a set of those, and two reasons why I didn't buy another set was they weren't stiff enough for the backpacking, so carrying heavy packs and over long distances.
Yeah.
And secondly, I found they leaked quite easily. Walking through long grass, that's covered in dew, I found that, after about 20 minutes of that, I always had water coming in on them.
Righto.
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I've got you.
Okay. All right, so coming back to some more gear then.
Yeah.
Your tripod and glass, spotting scope and binoculars, what do you prefer there?
So I actually went to the 88 Christmas party and scored myself one of the new Trisar carbon fiber tripods. I think
Oh yeah.
There's the modern day hunter.
Yep.
He's now supplying them.
Yep.
His name's Josh.
Yep.
And everything that I've got now, it's something that the kit that I use now, I swear by it pretty much. And I'm happy to give everyone the honest truth if it's good or it's shit. And the new Trisar tripod I got, it's ridiculously light compared to the carbon fiber tripod that I got from the States a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having to play around with it, and I couldn't leave there without it. It was unreal.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
great. So yes, I'm running the Trisar. I think it's what number it is. The A7. I'll tell you, I've got it here now. So the tripod itself comes in at 700 grams. It's the Trisar AD tripod.
Yep.
Comes in at about 700 grams, and I'm quite tall, so I like to be able to stand and glass if I want to, which is what I've struggled with.
Mm-hmm.
And that one there goes up to like 180 centimeters, so you can comfortably stand and glass if that's what you want to do, or you can sit, or if you're on the back of the ute, it's easy. So I haven't got out in the field yet, but I've heard a lot of good things about him.
Yeah. Are you running a Trisar head on that as well, or have you got another one?
Nah, so I'm running a I can't even pronounce it. It's like Sirui, Sirui.
Oh yeah, yep.
I'm running one of their flow heads just because when I'm filming, it's just easy. It's real smooth. It's got a bit of weight to it, so it doesn't jerk. And yeah, so far I like it. But the same again, now that I've got that Trisar tripod and I have had to play around with their ultralight head, it might be the next thing on the Christmas card list.
Yeah. I actually had Drew from Trisar on the podcast back in September, I think it was, August or September. Did an episode with him. I've got their Trisar lightweight head on a different tripod, and I've just been trying to justify spending the money and getting one of their tripods as well.
Yep.
Yeah, but I hear everything I hear about them is good, and that like you said, that capacity to be able to stand up and use it and still be stable at that height. And you can take that center column out too if you decide you just want to put the stubby one in and use that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. The one I had before that was from Field Optics Research in the States, and the thing I liked about that one the most is two of the legs actually come off the tripod, and you could screw walking pole handles into the legs.
Yep.
So I was like, well, it's pretty good. If I do that, then half the weight's in my hand and not on my back. But now the tricer weighs less than what the field optics did once it was in my backpack. So it's like, it's a no-brainer. Yeah.
The tripod I've got now, I've actually modified 2 of the legs, cut them off basically, and sort of adapted it so that my walking sticks can go in there and use them as legs instead. It's fine for sitting down and glassing, but anything, as soon as you sort of start getting up in height, it's quite unstable. So yeah, I'm really seriously considering one of those tricer tripods.
Yeah, well, I reckon they're the duck's nuts from what I've seen so far. It was actually pretty windy when we were down at the Clay Target shooting club for the Christmas party, and the stability, even with the spotting scope on it, it was no dramas. No complaint about it at all, even at full extension. So, but yeah, in regards to other optics that I use, I'm running the pair of Leica 3000 HBs, I think they are.
Yep.
Same again. I've had them for a while now, so I just haven't changed them over. I've actually had to play with the new Leicas. I caught up with one of the reps when he came down to one of our club meets, and he was repairing my binos, and I actually borrowed his new pair there. What were they? Yeah, like the 2000.coms maybe. And same again, they were unreal. There's like technology in them now where you can shoot a point and it'll give you shoot your rangefinder, and the pin it gives you will then convert onto your GPS, and you can walk to that GPS for whatever you're going there for.
Yep.
I think technology is never going to stop. They were pretty cool. And then a lot of my mates now are running those new the new Zeiss binos, which I've looked through them and they're pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember looking at a face with a mate on sunrise, and it was a bit of a race to who could see the first deer, and he's called deer and I couldn't see anything. And I've looked through his Zeiss ones and it was clear as day what he was looking at.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely no arguing with good optics like that, Zeiss and Swaros.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think whatever you got, you're going to make do with whatever you got. It just depends on how comfortable you want to be, I guess. You just don't tell the missus because nothing's cheap.
Yep.
And then in regards to filming, I was just using a Canon SX70, and I was pretty disappointed with it, to be honest. I was having trouble with it, like auto focusing at long range, and obviously in low light with its small sensor, it wasn't working. So I ended up going to a spotting scope with one of those Olin phone adapters, which is another thing that's just coming out in the market that's unreal, makes life so easy.
Yeah.
And I'm running the Cower spotting scope, so I've gone down that way.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
So bird watching can't be wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I hear that quite a bit, that people talk about, if you want to learn about optics, quality optics, go into the bird watching forums.
Yeah, just don't hang out with them too long.
Yeah, no, I've heard good things about those Cower spotters too, and I see they've just brought out a new one, 66, I think it is. It's got a slightly bigger objective. Yeah,
so I've got the 601, which is a 60 mil, and I think people get caught up with that and a smaller model that they got. Mine's no far at the top of their line of their promenade glass, and it's pretty good. Like we've filmed deer at over 3K. It's not clear, obviously, but it weighs, I think it's like 760 grams, whereas the Swarovski one, don't quote me on it, but I know it's like 1.3 maybe, or 1.2 kilos.
Yep.
And I don't think there's much in between the two of them.
Yeah.
So I want to be as light as I can. I've got enough crap that I'm carrying.
Yeah. And I think there's a reasonably big price point difference too between the Swaro and the Cower.
Yeah, I think now, so that's Cower 601 TSN. That's the model number.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure now, including the eyepiece, you can get it for like $1,300.
Yeah.
And all that footage I've got of all the long range kill shots, that's all with that Cower. Just that and the iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah. And the what are you doing for a rangefinder as well?
So my binoculars, my Leica HDVs, they're inbuilt.
Okay, so you're not running a separate one.
No, so I was running I was actually running a pair of Kale's binoculars, and I brought a brand new Leica 2700.com rangefinder,
Mm-hmm.
and I pretty much lost that on the first weekend that I got it. So that was an expensive trip. So I just cracked the shits and just went and got some Leicas just to have a one-stop shop.
Yeah, yep. I went over to the Leica range-finding binos a few years ago. After I was over in America, the guide we were with had a set of Swaro range-finding binos, and just the convenience of being able to use your binos as your rangefinder and, you know, sighting as you go and so forth, sold me on it. So I came back and my son inherited my my rangefinder, and I bought a set of Leicas.
Yeah, I think they're pretty good. Like, I do know, well, I don't know, but the word on the street is once you do put rangefinder into a set of binoculars, your glass quality does go down a little bit, but whatever it is, I've had no drama with it.
Yeah,
I just like the simplicity of it.
I think you do lose a little bit of light transmission ability in that that one side where your laser is. I think that's the only real downside, but yeah, it's fairly minimal. But I do remember watching someone doing some testing between, you know, like a set of Swaros, and this was before they had the Pures and the Swaro ranges, and they could definitely tell there was a slight difference in the light transmission ability.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know if it's the reason why Leica kept their rangefinder separate out of their eyepiece, because on the Leicas, it's in the center of the two eyepieces. So I know Harrison Lee done a podcast the other week. They were talking about the Zeiss binos, and the new Zeiss ones that aren't the rangefinder apparently are the absolute duck's nuts if you wanted to run two units.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've used one set before, and I was wrapped with them. But same again, once you start going into the top tier of binoculars, they're not cheap. You don't want to be jumping around to them unless you can afford it.
Yeah.
Try can't.
Yep, that's it. Josh, I really appreciate your time. We've been chatting for a while now, and I'm aware that it's a little bit later down there than it is for me technically. So I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No dramas. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'll definitely will be staying in touch with you anyway, and might be able to pick your brain a bit about a couple of locations down in Victoria, and exchange some information about New Zealand as well.
Yeah, no dramas. Sounds good.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for listening in. If you'd like to contact me for a chat, pass on any feedback, or have some ideas for future podcasts, please reach out to me on Instagram at australian_hunting_backcountry, or email australian.hunting.backcountry@outlook.com.au. For now though, please look after yourselves and your mates.